Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Volta TST. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded, will be shared live on YouTube. So please be aware of the comments you make and the information you share. So first of all, as I said, some housekeeping. Next week, I will be at MWC, and I encourage everybody who is interested in Volta and with the community at large to come to the ONF booth. There will be a Volta kiosk where we have the latest updates from the community, the latest status of things, and I hope to see everybody who's coming. So if you know of somebody that is interested in Volta and is at MWC, just tell them to come to the ONF booth, and we'll meet us there. Okay, so next up, there's a few updates on some of our projects and that we're working on, some of the things that folks have been doing. So we merged the last patch, the core patch from Elia to handle some of the flow deletion errors that we were seeing in our test. And we also enabled the ONU rediscovery test. So now we added that test to the nightly suite where we delete an ONU and expect it to come back from itself via an OMCI indication. So that is this is all done. From a fiber to the basement perspective, there's been some updates, especially around some patches that have been pushed. In particular, we have updates for the OLT adapter, the OLT agent, and thanks a lot to Girish for those. And more than that, we also have updates to SADIS with the README file that keeps all the information on how to use the tag for FTTB, and all the considerations that have been made in the past also in this meeting. And also its companion on the OLT app that introduces the logic to handle FTTB flows. So thanks a lot to Amit and Abhilash for those. Amit, is there anything that you want to add?
No, you've summarized it well, Andrea. Yeah, so would encourage people to have a look at the batch sets and share their comments if you like.
Yeah, that's my ask to everybody as well. If you can, please take a look at these patches and provide some feedback and some comment. There was already some review from myself. I know Elia is also taking a look at them, given his experience on implementing this in BBSIM. So so this is progressing along fairly well, and I'm happy about that. Next up, a little bit of an update on the combo PON support. That is ongoing. There is a great design document that I've shared last time from Girish, has been updated a little bit. And we also started the implementation in BBSIM. It's actually completed, it works. We would like to get some reviews on the patch, which includes also a way of describing the ranges of ports that we want to be either combo or either XGS PON or GPON. So feel free to review that one as well. And the plan is to use that as a base for the bulk of the implementation of the functionality in terms of adapters, agents, even though there's very little changes that need to be done because we already support port ranges. We just want to make sure that everything works. And once that is done, our plan is to actually have combo PON OLT and develop the OpenOLT agent changes and make sure that we are capable of handling this in hardware as well. Okay, any questions before I proceed? Okay, then the last element before the microservice controller discussion is the rolling software upgrade. We merged the gRPC streaming, as you guys know, but the test for the rolling upgrade is still failing for the same reasons. So I'm not sure, and if you take a look, it still like failed to disable the device because of some deletion already in progress. And we have seen this, and it was tracked down to be an issue of the communication between the services, but we thought it could go away from the streaming, but apparently it's not. So maybe, Ken, do you mind if I ask you to take a look at this one? If you have some time to spare?
Yeah, I can take a look at it, but the last time I look at it, now I'm confused between issues, but I get the impression that there was some of the failure was happening before we do any restarts. It has nothing to do with the actual communication, but I'll take a look at the latest to know what's going on.
Thanks, Ken. And maybe if you still feel that is not related to the communication, reach out to me, and we can with your findings, and we can then discuss what best to do for the failures. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
Andrea, one thing on this, probably we also need to check the version we are providing in the current job on which we want to upgrade to. Because at times we usually upgrade in the Helm, but we forgot to update it here. But I think that in future that should be resolved with my latest patch, the pipeline patch, once we merge that. And it's already in review, right? So I would say let's try to debug it once that is merged, because with that we'll always be using the latest images.
Okay, yeah, I believe that will be merged today. So maybe Ken, give it a couple of days and then take a look at it, okay?
Okay, sure.
Thanks. And if it's passing in a couple of days, great. Saves you some work.
For sure.
Okay. Any other question on this topic? Okay. Then if not, I'd like to get to one of the big items of today, which is the microservice controller. So last time we left with some questions to Netsia and Radisys, and asked to both of them to review each other's proposal and see where we stand. I know Radisys has some updates to the question related to the question that it was asked them last time. So maybe before we proceed, I'd like to ask Raj or somebody else from Radisys to present their status and the considerations that they have made.
Sounds good, Andrea. Does anyone else want to go first, or is there anything else? Let's see, or anyone from the TST want to go, or we can go?
You can go.
Okay, all right, Maher. Thank you. Who do we have? I think Shrikar, you're going to run through the slides today for us, right, Shrikar?
Yeah, I can do. I think Shriki also has joined.
Yeah, I see Shriki is joined, but he doesn't have audio yet. I don't see
Right.
audio for him yet. Yeah, so.
Sure. Yeah, I can present that. Please let me know once you are all able to see my screen.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for various people in the meeting joined from different places. I am Shrikar Rajukoneti. I think with me, Raj, Shiki, Suhas, and Abhilash have joined from Radisys. Yeah. So our team has presented the Radisys proposal to share a lightweighted controller that can replace the ONOS. And we had a couple of action items on the queries asked during the last presentation. I will quickly walk you all through the slides that provide insights into the performance of LWC in our setup, actually. and our design considerations for the architecture of LWC, and the language considerations as well while developing the LWC. So, and I think once I present,
Shikhar, let us first of all maybe introduce
sure.
what LWC means for the rest of the
Sure, sure.
So, folks, LWC is basically the name of our controller. It stands for lightweight controller, LWC. Last time we used, I think, micro ONOS or something to that effect, but we just wanted to use the name that we are using internally when we are presenting, if I may, from our side, the data. So you see what these numbers are. But what we want to call this a microcontroller or Voltha controller or what have you is a separate discussion, and can Andrea, we can take it separately, obviously, outside. LWC is Radisys implementation of the ONOS Lite or micro ONOS, if I may. Okay.
Right.
Shikhar, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah. So this slide provides the information about our LWC performance capabilities with different simulation environment as well as the physical setups actually. So we have tested with 10 OLTs, 1000 ONTs per OLT with 5 services on each ONT, amounting to 200K flows using BBSIM. This 5 services is as per one of the deployment scenario from our operator, from one of our operators. And the LWC takes about 1/10 of the CPU when compared to the ONOS for the same workload. The convergence of states takes less time, like it's less than 2 minutes during reconciliation. Like if any reboot happens because of some unforeseen circumstances. And we have tested with DHCP relay yielding to 1000 DHCP sessions within a couple of sessions. So here is the table actually, which captures the resources consumed by the controller, respective controllers like LWC and ONOS. The resources here are RAM and CPU. Where the LWC, we have tested these figures are with actual real ONTs in a production setup for the scale test. And for 1090 subscribers with 5 services with multicast and the HSA flows, everything, it consumes around 160 to 200 MB of RAM for around 27.2K flows. And it consumes around 2 core minutes for the same 27.2K flows. So when we say 2 core minutes, it is like it consumes 2 minutes to if it is a single core. And if you have multiple cores, 2 cores, I think it will be completing in less than a minute. Actually, one more thing I would like to add here is the core utilization here is captured during the worst case scenario, like with fully loaded system and with the 1000 ONTs and the OLT reboots. So we have to push the flows parallelly and activate the subscribers to be activated with services. So during the peak operation, this is the 2 core minutes is the one we are able to capture. And in the actual idle cases where there are no activity or the LWC, whatever the applications that are there, they are driven by the events like port up, port down, or some trigger from the northbound to activate a service for a subscriber. So during those condition idle cases, sunny day scenarios, we will see the CPU utilization as very minimal, less than, I think it is very negligible actually for the CPU. And these are the figures for the ONOS for 1024 subscribers. And I think these we have captured from the public forum from the community. So
one second, Shikhar, let's go back, please. Let's not run this through so fast. Let's just give the community a chance to absorb that. Huh?
One question I have on the ONOS, you mentioned that you separate the single instance with a 3-node cluster. The LWC, was it a single instance or was it running in a cluster?
It is running in a single instance.
Okay, So in the case of ONOS, like we have a 3-node cluster there, if I imagine if one node goes down, we still have the same, we kind of will have the same response time for those things. In the LWC, if that one instance goes down, do you have any numbers around that, or is it?
Right. As I mentioned here, the convergence takes very less time, less than 2 minutes for reconciliation. I think it is less than 2 minutes actually for these thing, like if the application goes down to come back up actually and get all the states to the previous before crashing or whatever it will happen, to come back to the same state, it takes less than 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, so that include like the adapter crashing or LWC the crashing.
Right. Even the adapter crashes also, the system takes less than this amount of time. Right.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on at least the performance that we have been able to see in our implementation, if I may? Any questions on the scale, the measured resource utilization? I think we have gotten the ONOS equivalents correct, but if we are wrong, then and if anyone wants to or can point out, please do let us know. But from what we can see, or from what you can see, right, from the data that has been collected from a implementation that is serving customers now, you can see that it is actually quite low, the LWC implementation with respect to the ONOS classic, if I may use that analogy.
Yeah, and just for my my own curiosity here. So it's a one-to-one mapping between LWC instance and the Voltha stack, right?
That is correct.
In this case, you don't have multiple stacks going to the same LWC.
It is one-to-one. You're right, Ken. But then that one Voltha stack can control multiple OLTs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And I believe those numbers that are there on the right are taken from the single instance one-to-one with Voltha ONOS scale tests. So I think in that sense, the comparison is fine because we're talking one-to-one LWC to Voltha and one-to-one ONOS classic to Voltha.
Correct.
Because I recognize those numbers from the document I had.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, if there are no questions from anyone, then we can go to the next slide.
Right. So this is the diagram we have presented last time, and there was some confusion we have presented last time as this component as OF agent, and that had some confusions, and we got a lot of queries there. So we have changed that one to Voltha core gRPC agent to avoid any confusion.
We have to just change the title on this one, Srikar. I think we forgot to change that.
Okay,
that's okay, but that's okay. Hey, I think
yes.
Yeah.
So these are the architecture considerations we have taken for the LWC. Just like we just now got a question on the cluster architecture for LWC. So we don't need a cluster architecture actually for resiliency, as the context is separated from execution. Means the states are stored in the persistent data as well as in the cache, so that it can recover fast, and it can be faster during the upgrades as well. Also, the LWC is very transparent to Voltha because it uses the same community-defined gRPC-based communication towards the Voltha. One advantage with our LWC is it supports seamless software upgrades with the capability to support data migration. So when I say data migration, if there are any new attributes that are added or new features are added or the new features in the new stack that we are going to upgrade a new image version. So there is a placeholder to support the data migration as well from the old the software that is the database that is there from the previous image. We can migrate seamlessly to the current image. And the below are the considerations we had while designing whether the applications have to be run as separate applications or as part of the the LWC stack itself. So the reason why we chose IGMP means all the applications to be part of LWC are to have the lower latency and lower resource utilization. And at the same time, there will be explosion of microservices when we have more processes or more pods there actually. And each controller and Voltha stack adds an additional 4 to 5 containers. Also, sorry, the application doesn't need load unload as this is a configuration driven and it is very lightweight. More resources are needed to communicate between the processes if we go with the architecture of multiple pods. And the synchronization also is additional complexity that we see that needs to be taken care between the controller and the new applications for sequential processing and audits. So mostly we hit all these issues when there are a lot of flows. Also, the LWC is designed to support multiple OLTs and a large number of flows per instance. As you can see from our performance figures, we were able to achieve with a single instance a good number of flows, right? And basically, as the architecture consideration is there, similarly, while
Hey, can you go back?
Yeah.
Just give a minute after you finish the slide sticker for people to observe.
Maybe a general questions like on Volta, like we had all kind of architecture evolution over time, and we find that this having a core supporting like it's only one adapter, OLT adapter, one new adapter was those one-to-one mapping was kind of useful. Do you foresee that in the future you will really have the LWC to have like it's one-to-one mapping with a core and leave it as that instead of trying to have it to map to multiple Volta stack?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So it supports whatever the way we want to use actually, either it is one-to-one or one-to-multiple Volta stacks. So we consider actually using one LWC stack with the Volta as one-to-one currently.
Hey, Srikar, can you hear me? Just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I guess we should be flexible. The footprint and the CPU utilization, the RAM, etc., is quite low on the LWC. In theory, if you were to say that you want to have multiple Volta stacks mapped to one LWC, just from pure resource consumption and the mapping of how that is used, it does make sense. However, I guess I've seen also community publish these stacks as a way of, let's say, a paired ONOS and Volta stacks as an instance, right? In load distribution, etc., might work very well in that case. You know exactly and where the OLT is connected. There may be some pros and cons with either one. We do not have too strong a preference at the moment. Whatever comes out as the best decision can be employed. That said, we are leaning towards Volta, pairing LWC and Volta as one unit as of today.
That's good, because if at some point of time you want to have multiple Volta stack to one LWC, then it will be useful to do the a test to figure out like how much it can support, because adding cores it's not necessarily linear because in Go, depending what kind of choices you made, in some cases, it gives you good performance for when you add a certain number of cores, and then after that it can get worse. So it's if you're doing one-to-one, then it's okay. But if you're going to do one-to-n, then there's some more tests that you may need to look at.
It's true.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think as a community, we all together will decide what to do, and more tests needed, we will do those tests, etc. So we are open. Architecture wise, I don't remember how we have structured it. I have to go back and look at it, but I guess it's not rocket science to for LWC to support multiple Voltha stacks underneath. It's not rocket science for sure.
Okay, thanks.
I think the main difference between the two architectures is having a single component or multiple microservices. So in our side, actually, we highly recommend to use the microservices architecture because of using the advantages of what microservice architecture, like operation easiness, separately updating the applications and having lightweight applications, so having stateless applications, like having technology and language independent while developing the applications. And if you want to add some extra functionalities or applications to the system, it's easier to develop a new application and add it to the system in a microservice architecture, etc. So, I mean, in our perspective, we actually like to have a microservice architecture instead of a single component. I know that you also had you write down these advantages of having a single component. Yeah, we agree that a single component also has this kind of advantages. But I mean, I think that the advantages of having a microservice architecture is more than having a single component. And in the future, we may have abilities to make some. We can be flexible to make some differences, architectural change, dynamic microservice architecture. Like, I mean, having packet controller outside of this huge component and push it perhaps onto the OLT, etc. We can make this kind of improvements easily when we have the microservice architecture.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that comment. We're not opposed to it. I mean, obviously, I also want to make one point here that the interface between our applications and the devices layer, the way we've drawn 3 layers, there's a very clear interface in our software. So it should not be complicated to, again, I mean, it should not be difficult to isolate them into separate microservices because there's very clear interface. I mean, there is an explicit interface and there's a function call that can always be broken into inter-process boundary for sure. What we have today, obviously, is a single microservice. We can start with that, and as we progress, we find the advantage of breaking that into microservices. We can surely go for that as well. However, one thing that comes to my mind is that we must also support running them together. As we design this, let's see if we can support both models, because I'm sure there are places where this would be useful, where you want to run it as a single microservice. Based on our experience, the load on the LWC is light enough that breaking that into multiple microservices gives you benefit of having independent upgrade paths for each of these applications, etc. But from pure resources perspective and the complexity of the software perspective, it will increase the burden on those fronts. That said, as Radisys, we are bringing in this software, and the design does not preclude from this being taken up in future.
There are also cases where like at times we we may also overthink a little bit microservice architecture when we take a lot of components out. If we find that there are some components, for example, in this case, IGMP, AAA, DHCP, if we find that those components, there is some kind of like feature coupling between them, and that if in the future, if we change, for example, IGMP, and that will trickle down to some other changes in AAA or changes in DHCP, then at times it makes sense to have them together, because in practice, when we're going to deploy things in production, maybe there would be some couplings between them. So I'm not saying this is the case now, but all I'm saying is at times it makes sense to have the services all together.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I can't recollect everything top of my head, but I do see some information in the application being shared across different threads of execution like DHCP and PPP or Ethernet, and the actual Volt as an application that knows the subscribers and services. Once we get a little bit more experience after using whatever we pick, after we get some experience, exposure to whatever is developed, and we make a good design and a business case for isolation of applications, we could do it. We could start with what we have, and then we can explore and figure out.
Okay, and on the other side, let's discuss some other design consideration, like having some decisions like we talked that we should have Voltha APIs at the southbound, so we should stick to this. And on the southbound, what should be the, on northbound, what should be the interfaces we will use? I think we should support the current APIs that the applications currently have. You know, when we cut the ONOS and put the new controller to there, it should seamlessly work, I think.
Shrikar, can you go to the earlier slide? Yeah, thank you, Shrikar. Yes. Yeah.
So means, are you expecting that instead of the northbound handler, what we have,
Yes.
yeah, right, that can be supported, right, easily.
Okay, that's good. And the other thing is having, I didn't see the multicast application in your applications list. Is there a multicast application there or not?
It is, Maher, it's in under development.
Under development, okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I want to, know if we remove the ONOS and put this new controller to there, if it works or not seamlessly, you know, if we have some applications lacking or some interface lacking, this will not be easy to replace it. So I'm asking these questions.
One more time, Maher, are you asking if you want to extend it, or as an?
No, in case we want to, use it in our environment.
Hey, Raj, the ask is that ultimately, when this fits into the community,
Yes.
there are applications that are written on top of ONOS that interface with ONOS with whatever is the current existing northbound interface from ONOS. So the ask is that LWC, when it's available in the community, should support those interfaces as opposed to what we have today.
Okay, got it, Shriki. Thank you. Got it, Shriki and Maher.
Yeah.
But one point is maybe it may not fit into the cluster environment, but with a single instance, definitely it can fit in, right, Shriki?
Yeah, understood, Shrikar. Yeah, I guess that's a completely different decision, like cluster versus a single instance. I think, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me. The community here is here, that we're going more and more towards the Volta-like implementation, where you're not necessarily want to use cluster, but you want to use a single instance, right? And each of them can fail and come back up, and as long as the context is stored persistently, you're able to start from where you stopped, right? So with that approach, I do agree with the speaker's point that we can, as long as that is agreed, we can always support the ONOS northbound interface when we give this to community.
Yeah, I think that was Mahir's comment, and I believe the operators are really interested in this because I think that there are many places where it's already integrated, and it could be that we could go in steps, and there are definitely maybe better options on the northbound than the existing ONOS API. I'm not saying that that is actually the best. Also come up with a better API and then just make a little translation layer. But yes, the key point is that it should support the existing ONOS APIs, which is effectively is the provision and provision subscriber and the provision and provision unitag service, effectively. Those 4 APIs, actually.
Okay, then what's the plan of opening it? I mean, Andrea, on the other hand, does ONF think to, if Radisys open this controller now, does ONF think to try it, if it works or not, with current environment, you know?
So definitely whatever code it is open that controls Voltha, I would be very open and I would be willing to test it and check it out and try it out at least for now manually on some setup to understand even better what is there, what is missing, what works, what doesn't. And so, yes, if Radisys decides to open this up at ONF, we are willing to try it.
Hey, Andrea, sorry.
Yes.
I had one suggestion. We have 2 interfaces to meet. One is the Voltha. We believe we are pretty close to what's there in the community. And the other interface is northbound. I guess we can take a 2-step approach. Is that first we check the compatibility with Voltha, and Radisys probably has to work on this to make sure. I mean, if there's any if there are any differences, if there's any incompatibility, that is resolved first with the community Voltha. And then once you have that proof, and you obviously can test via CLI or some method where you can start seeing how that you can see LWC and the community Voltha working together. And that's when we come to the point of reviewing the northbound interface. Like you suggested, we can show you our interfaces. You can agree, you can disagree. We can say, okay, no, we just want to go back to what is there in the ONOS. That's also a possibility. So first step could be that we get it working with the community Voltha, review the current interface, okay, and then decide what the northbound interface exactly should be. That'll be the step 2, and step 3 would be to actually implement the interface as the community agrees.
I agree. I think that what Mahir was asking was more like if we're willing to try it with the existing Voltha upstream. And as I said, it may be an understatement of the work that will need to be done, but for me, the northbound APIs is more of a matter of translation if the functionality is there. So it's not like we have to put in a bunch of new code and that code that is deeply intelligent about the actions that need to be taken. That code is already existing. It's just a way of driving it. So I agree with this. Definitely the first step is for me, for us as a community, if you're interested, if Radisys is interested to open sourcing this, to take it and try it with the upstream Voltha, as you said, you guys have to make that, to look at what the changes that you have made in the southbound and come to the community. If something you clearly think it's needed, because I remember there were some proposed changes by ONF as well. So if those to the Voltha Protos to support better streaming, for example. So I would encourage as a first step, as you said, for you to review the changes that you have made to the Protos and either revert them if they're useless. I don't believe so, but or come to the community with the proposal of those changes to be discussed. Then the second
I agree with you, Andrea. Sorry. Yeah.
Then the second step would be to discuss the northbound APIs, but we could manually try the solution with LWC and at least come to an agreement that it works and it does what it's needed. From Netsia's, the one question that I would have for Nets and their team is, and I know this is not going to be, you guys will not be able to answer for me today, but if this works as expected with the telecom workflow, would you guys be willing to get on board on this solution with some work to get that can be done by the community to get it to adhere to your requirements as well, especially around the capability of the system to support also external applications? With these things agreed upon, would you guys be willing to work on this, or is it still off for you? Maybe, Mahir, I don't know if you can answer. Maybe we can take this offline, but that would be my ask. If Radisys decides to open source this, we show that it works. We show that it works with the open source protos, and we make it compatible with the existing northbound APIs, and we have that capability to support external apps. Would that be something that Nets is interested in?
Of course, we may be interested in it, but Andrea, work is started on our side, and we have deadlines. You know, if we have this solution opened in time, quickly, and we review that and test it and saw that it's working. So of course we can use it or work on it. So this will also reduce the efforts on our side. But until that happens, I cannot stop. The work ongoing on our side.
I understand.
You know, as I said, we have some deadlines, and we have to be there in these deadlines, in this time frame. So I cannot stop the work ongoing. But if we have this solution opened on time and we see that it's working, yeah, we can stop there and we'll start to work on this. If you know, we also want to have a single solution in open source, as I said before, and also we don't want to, spend the same efforts that already spent and instead of using a ready component, developing in Scratch. I don't want, of course, want to do it, but as I said, it's a matter of time, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand, and that is, and then this really, for me as a community manager for Voltha, as a project leader for Voltha, this in turns goes back to Radisys and says, well, given that it's a matter of time, I would encourage you guys to do all the possible strives to get this into at least a testable fashion in the shortest amount of time. I know that's quite an ask, and I cannot do anything more than ask. I can ask you guys. I cannot enforce anybody, but this is my ask then to Radisys. As I have said to Netse that I've asked them if it works, why don't you use it? Well, then now it's on your turn, Radisys and the team, to at least open this to an extent that it can be testable as soon as
And can we can start reviewing and testing it,
Yes.
as soon as possible.
Yeah, and maybe there's two ways to this. There's one way which is fully open sourcing the code, which might take longer. There's another way which is sharing a Docker image, which for an initial test, I would say I'm fine with. So to me, is more important that for at least functionality wise, that the community could access a binary effectively of this solution with a set of instructions on how to run it, and that they can test it. The code could come at a later point in time, or could come maybe just to ONF as a first step. So I guess that's the next step, I think.
Andrea, Mahadhi Raj. Yes, I think that is a fair question to ask, given what we have been also thinking here on our side. We were expecting this, and we are processing through some topics on our side to get ready. We just need maybe a couple of more weeks and or less. Let's see. And I think there is an event next week that some of us are coming to, so would love to see if anyone in the community, if they're there, then would love to meet with everyone there who is there, and maybe hash a few more things out. But yes, we are in principle open to the ask. And Andrea, I think we like your suggestion of maybe getting a binary, like a Docker image with some instructions first out, because it is going to take some time to get the code, if I may, prepared and ready for upstreaming. Yes. Why don't we take just a week or so, and then when we meet next time, we'll see where we are.
Yeah. Yes, I would say absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a good next step. I think the binary is totally fine. I think Mahir, you guys would be fine with the binary at first, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you can test it with our environment, I mean, its interfaces are fit to our environment, then yeah, of course.
Yeah, so okay. I think that it's a good next step. Let's meet at MWC for those of you who are there, and assess more details around this. If there is anything that ONF can help in this direction, I'm definitely willing myself. I'm committing my time to this, and let's make it happen.
Andrea, I understood that if this Docker image comes, ONF also will test it.
Yes, I will test it. I cannot promise automated tests, but
yeah, sure. Okay.
I will personally test it. Meaning, and just to be clear of what I consider a test, to me, what I consider a test is the basics, like at a very basic low level, is try out the workflows. So deploy it, connect a device, show that it's there, what we call the sanity test, what it runs on a per patch set verification.
And can we do a scale test also?
The issue with the doing as possibly, let me put a possibly there, in the sense that yes, I could. That would require a little bit more work, in the sense that the sanity test I can test fairly easily myself manually. The scale test, I need the infrastructure. So I could, because we do have that infrastructure for scale testing, and I could put it there and see that it's at least working. The issue is that I don't want to go and provision manually 1,024 subscribers. So I will have to develop at least a script or something like that. So it might not be like an immediate test. So I could say that I would start first at sanity and see if sanity works. If sanity works, then maybe I could, then we go to scale tests.
Okay. Our scale tests, do you know, are they using the, say, northbound APIs of VLT application, or the ONOS CLI to create a subscription?
This the scale tests or using
Yes.
the REST
REST
APIs?
APIs. Okay.
Yes. The REST APIs. So, I mean, we could change that to whatever, but again, it's not like an immediate test that I can do locally on my laptop. It would require a little bit of work. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do, and maybe it is actually a good way of automating a test of this, sure. I just maybe need a little bit more detail to commit to how much work needs to be done for testing at scale this. So that's what I'm saying. I'm committing to testing it. Definitely the sanity test first, and then we can look at scale tests. We will do it, just maybe not in like a week when I get it. I get it, and then I do the sanity test, and then we go to scale tests. What somewhat comforts me is that, if I'm not mistaken, and Radis's team, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it was tested with 1,024 physical devices.
Correct. That is correct, Andrea.
Okay, that's good, because we at ONF cannot really do that type of testing. So I will be testing it with BBSIM, but it's still pretty good. It's actually somewhat comforting in my side that it's being tested at scale, but we definitely need to test it ourselves in an open environment and publish the results of those tests.
Andrea, on the top line, you see that we also tested with 10 OLTs, with each having 10 OLTs, each having 1,000 OLTs with BBSIM.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I think we have outlined the next steps here is for Raj and his team to go through the necessary elements to get at least a binary and a set of instructions, and I expected the Helm charts open source, or at least available somewhere, so that we can test it. And then it would fall up to ONF and everybody else in the community to take a look at this. For more details on exactly the process of doing so, maybe we can sync up offline, because that would require I would say the ONF infrastructure to help you guys put everything in a place where the community can access it. So I'm willing to help on this side. It doesn't have to be infrastructure, and we can sync up at MWC. And I think this is a really good, topic, good result that we have achieved today, at least in my mind. And Mahir, I agree with the fact that given your scale requirements and your time commitments, you guys cannot stop the work. So I think that is totally understandable, and I think it's actually good for you because you have to meet those requirements. But thanks a lot for being willing to try out this and see if it meets your requirements, and possibly even move to this when the time comes and it proves that it is sufficient for your workflows as well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
One question I have, Andrea. Are we going to continue with the design discussions, or stop here and plan for a future release? Just wondering.
No, I think we should still continue. So there's definitely a few topics that we need to cover. The first one being any changes that Radis has made to the southbound, meaning of the controller, so the northbound of Voltha. That is definitely something that we need to discuss, that we need to make sure that if they are good changes and agreeable changes, we submit them to the opens, to the upstream. The second one that we need to talk about is the northbound APIs. That's definitely something that I want to keep the discussion ongoing. And maybe that is an action item on myself to see what's there and see what the controller actually needs to expose, understand what Radisys has exposed, understand what you guys would like to expose, and then maybe see if there is something in the upstream open source community already that can be used. That is an action item on myself. The other design discussion is definitely the way for us to have the apps both local and remote. Initial thoughts could be using a protobuf definition and a few flags that either start a gRPC service or just use internal interfaces. So that's one. We would need to have a look at how to do that. And so at least those 3 items are definitely something that we definitely need to discuss in terms of the TST. Have I missed something?
The local and remote, you mean the like microservices design, right, or something else?
Local to one microservice or remote with multiple microservices. Sorry, I expressed myself wrong.
I think Redis also is open to have a microservices implementation. So I mean, if we can continue with the design discussion with that. So in the future, I hope we want to be in the same design. So we will be glad if we can continue with that also. So at the end of the this Voltha release or some other Voltha release, we can at least have a design blueprint that everyone can be agreed on.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good.
Agreed as well from Redis's side. I do not see anything that we disagree with. I think in principle we are all completely aligned. So I think we have an action on our side, Andrea, right? To do some homework and get something over as a Docker image with some instructions for the community here. Anyone to try it out, if I may? And then we can continue the conversations at MWC next week. For anyone who are there, I'd love to meet. We can meet. And then to the point that Sarkant made about the microservices discussion can continue once we sort of give the Docker image to play with, and if it meets the requirements, then we can fast forward sort of how we upstream the code. And Sarkant, to your point, you know, all of it cannot be achieved in one go, but we can upstream the code as we have it today, and then in a release or 2 later, Sarkant, to your point, it can be broken up as microservices as we see fit, precisely for the objective that some of us have, which is to be able to run the apps at least as a microservice that interacts with this controller, whether this sits locally or remotely, for example, on the OLT example that you gave last time. So I think all of that makes sense.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay. Shriki, Suhas, Abhilash, and Shrikar, anything from our side?
Nothing
from my side yet.
Okay.
I think that was a very useful meeting. Just as an item, I'm not going to cancel right away the meeting for next week. I've asked Matteo to host it if there is any topic that requires our attention. I know that some of us are going to be at LWC, and I don't expect any update on this topic within a week. So let's see. I leave up to Theo the decision to hold it or not. If there is topics, just go ahead and do it. If not, just skip it. Okay, thanks. Okay, with that, given that we are over the hour, thanks a lot everybody for joining. I will publish the recording so it can be shared for the folks that were not available. Ken, I imagine David would have something to say about all of this, and maybe
He always does.
Exactly. So thanks a lot everybody for joining, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Cheers, bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.